Hey guys, it's Michael and welcome back to episode 3 of Let's Make Maps. So last time we started this town map based on an RPG city map generator map and got it to this point where we've broken it into layers and done a little bit of work on it. It still looks super rough, so we'll work on this some more this time, and I'll try to take about 45 minutes and see what we can get done in that amount of time. Hopefully we can get it mostly done. Let's see. So first of all, though, there were some comments on Cartographer's Guild that I should address. One is that I'm using Photoshop, obviously, and the GIMP, which is a perfectly good free alternative, doesn't have some of the features, and neither does Photoshop Elements that Photoshop does. My understanding is that the GIMP has a plugin that lets you do layer style, so you can do at least some of this. I haven't looked at it, but after this map is done, we'll try making a map in GIMP and see how that goes, see how I can apply my techniques to that. And then another user commented on my video, the Stonehammer files, and he says that he's switching from the GIMP to a program called Krita, which I will put another comment. I'll put these links in the description for you guys. So I haven't looked at this yet, but I will. It looks pretty neat, but we'll see how it goes. So I'll post this link in the description down below. So take a look at it if you're interested, and I'll also try to dig up I'll dig up a link to the GIMP, and I'll also try to dig up a link to a plugin that may accomplish some of the things that we're doing here in Photoshop. All right. So I think that's it, and let's just dive right back in here. So what to do first? Well, we didn't touch water, and I think water might be a good thing to address. We also need to put some bridges under these roads here. Right now we just have straight up the stuff that was generated by our generator, and we don't really want probably two bridges over here, etc. So what I'm going to do is, we're just kind of showing how to do this stuff last time. I think what we'll do is, what's the best way to do this? I think the best way to work with the roads, and let's go ahead and do this before we do the water. I think the best way to work with the roads is to delete this layer mask. I'm just going to delete them both. We haven't done any editing in them, I don't believe. And let's work with the road base directly. I'm going to get the eraser tool, if I can find it. So we're going to take the eraser tool, we're going to set it to pencil mode, and I'm going to make the brush a little bit bigger though. And I'm just going to come in here and erase some stuff. So I'm just going to edit this layer a little bit. We could use the selection tool. What is going on with that? Very odd. All right. So I just want to get kind of an outline there. Let's take it down to one bridge. Right, and then let me make my brush a bit bigger, get rid of the rest of it. Yeah, see, now the river, of course, isn't joined over there, and we kind of want it to run all the way through. So when we're done with this, we'll turn off the roads, and we'll make sure that the river is painted in properly. So let's take care of the roads in the area of the bridges first. I guess those are okay. This little road here seems a bit superfluous, so let's just go ahead and erase the whole thing. I don't see much point for that, or this one for that matter. Maybe we can join them up right here. And hold on. Huh. All right. You got to lift your pen once in a while if you're ready to commit to changes. Otherwise, you'll delete a whole slew of things. So I think we can just kind of taper this one off over here. And maybe we can let this one run back into this other one here. That seems like a reasonable thing to do. And let's see, pencil, that's the pen. Give me the brush. Give me the brush, pencil tool, thank you. Right, I'm going to press D to get my colors back to black and white, and then I'm just going to kind of draw. Oh, opacity is down. Working on this base layer, I want to make sure opacity is turned up to max. Well, I mean, you can work with it on a lower opacity if you want to, but I don't tend to. Okay, I'm going to do that. This road back here, no point to it. Although it is kind of neat. Maybe what we can do is we can link it up here. So in general, RPG City Map Generator needs a lot of work before its roads and things look very good at all. So I usually do quite a bit of this sort of thing, where I'm just going in and editing and erasing and putting stuff back together. It's like this whole outer loop here isn't really needed. So let's cut that across. I'm going to turn off trees so that we can see. So we'll just bring this one in maybe. And you know, I just put a fresh tip on my pen. That is super important if you use something like a Wacom. The tip starts getting worn down and you start losing a lot of precision. So I've just replaced mine. They do go pretty good, although this generation that I have, I think it's an Intuos 5. There may be a new version out now, I don't even know. These guys are in my hometown, actually, interestingly enough. Wacom in Vancouver, Washington. But yeah, the older one, I forget which version it was. Was it 3? Was it 4? Had kind of like a rough surface. It's supposed to be, you know, real feel. Feels like you're drawing on paper. And when in effect, it was just a sandpaper thing for your tip. Let's keep this road kind of large going out of town here. And you know, the nice thing is you can get precise. Like if you're doing a more modern city, you might want to be a little more precise with these, but we don't need to be that precise because we're not saying any of these are, I mean, even if they're cobbled, they're not necessarily like high-end surfaces with curbs and that kind of thing, so they don't have to be smooth around the edges. More than likely someone brought a cartload of rocks, dropped it off, and that's now your road. Basically fancy gravel, I guess. So we got a giant feeder coming down here but going nowhere, so let's make that a little less giant and have it taper in. Could probably do a whole bunch of work on this, which we don't really have time for, I guess. Let's make this one link in over to here. Make it get a little bit bigger as we head up into it. And this road is a big no. You might find reasons, you know, just because if a road is already there, you might find a reason for it to be there. Like we could put, you know, a farm type of thing over here, pens or something like that, or an open air market. You know, use your imagination, but I'm just going to delete it. Now, notice also that our trees take a notch out of these things. So let's redraw the whole thing back in where our trees have removed it. There's yet another sort of issue with RPG City Map Generator. I would take a lot more time and be a lot more precise on a map that I was working on. I'm just trying to kind of get it did here. So one thing I really don't care for with this Wacom, I've got the touch turned off, I think, the touch sensitive surface turned off, but the it does funny things, like my hand doesn't even really touch the buttons over here, it just gets near them and it brings up this overlay here. Happens if I chuck my iPad or my phone down on top of it too. So a little bit strange and annoying. Let's see. We don't need this road. Oops. This road is kind of pointless. And you know, honestly, in theory, you'd want to do this kind of editing work before you start working on the map. I wanted to kind of get into some techniques, so I skipped that, but you probably do want to do that. I don't know why I put so many serious elbow corners in here. I can get rid of this whole thing. Actually, let's get rid of this whole road. There's no need for it. If you're using a pen, you could also just flip it over and use the erase tool that way, but I don't typically like to do that because I often seem to lose where I am. So I like to just switch tools rather than do that. And it doesn't matter. If you leave a pixel or two, it doesn't really matter. You can clean them up nicely if you like, but this is interesting. Might be able to do something with that. Let's make this one merge in over here, I guess. All these trees. I guess you could not export the trees. That actually might not be a bad idea because the trees are pretty hinky anyway. The benefit of having them is kind of so you could generate them separately and export that, or you could just not have them done at all. And I think we'll do most of these things with like a little dirt road, a separate layer. Like the little paths to houses and things like that. I'm trying to do this quickly, but there is a lot of road work in this town. Okay. Oh boy. Yeah, that can stay. This is just a mess over here. Let's clean that up a little bit. I'm not a fan of this, but I'm not going to mess with it. Fix that up. Little meandery road here can be meandery, I guess, but let's connect them. Let's connect this. Here we have our tower taking out a piece. So let's fix that. I guess it's okay if we split into two here. But actually, let's give this a little more of a directional change, just so that it's clear that it's going somewhere else. And what else? Well, I like that. It looks like a fallen tree. Sometimes you'll get neat little artifacts like that when you use textures, which is kind of fun. Let's connect that up. Let's fix this. Fix this big gaping hole. That one. This road we decided goes nowhere, but I think we can have it just kind of taper off there. Alright. Just another pass over and make sure that we kind of got most of it looking decent. Already 15 minutes in and I'm still doinking around with roads over here. Okay, now this little network here is just foolish. Let's see what we need to fix up over here. I think we can just remove this whole crossy intersection thing. Not much point in it. And this one, Like hole in the road. It might be interesting to leave some of those, as if you can think of a reason for them to be there, I guess. This here, I don't know, village square maybe, I guess, could be. All right, I think it's time to cut bait on this pretty quickly here. What else we got? Anything else? This doesn't need to be there. That's just useless. And blend it back in over here. Take just a little bit of the width off of that because that looks a little strange. All right, let's zoom out and take a look. No. Just when you think you're out, pull you back in again. All right. Anything else? Oh my God. I think that's good enough. Nope, it's not. Here's the thing about these maps is when you're working on them, you're just gonna, time after time, you'll find more and more details that you, once you get some things looking decent, you'll find more details that really don't look all that great, and you'll have to mess around with them. We're probably still not going to be totally perfect here, but it's not bad. It's not bad. I wouldn't mind that going a little more in the center, but we can work with it. Yeah, okay, that'll work for now. So now let's reselect this. Let's turn these back on. Let's reselect this. And here we're just going to add a mask. And did you take my selection? You did. We'll just add a mask there. And there we go. I think those roads look a little bit better. And you won't be able to see them nearly as tightly as you can now. So let's turn off these tree shadows and take a look. Okay, good. Okay, river. Let's get down to the river now. I'm going to turn off the roads. And we're going to go in here and we're going to edit the water base layer in much the same way that we already did. So this one is going to be easier. Fortunately, our water generated this time very nicely. Most of the time the water is super hinky and you have to do some editing on it, but this time I think we're pretty good. A little bit mucking about with that. And you know, I've never been a master at actually turning the drawing, so I tilt my head a lot when I'm working on stuff, which can cause some severe neck pain when you're working on a lot of maps. Are the walls are a problem too. I thought they might be. Walls, trees, everything else. I think this gets generated kind of at the bottom layer. So they all take a piece out of it. Excuse me. Sorry. Okay, there's our water layer, water base layer. And let's think about what we're going to do about this water base layer. Well, I want to copy it. I'm just holding Alt and dragging it. And by the way, I am using a larger screen recording size here. I'm kind of limited on Twitch, which is what I did the last thing on, because I'm not a partner and I can't stream it full HD. So I was doing 720p, unfortunately. Essentially what we're going to do here with the water is we're going to create several different layers. And actually, rather than dragging, I'm just going to delete that. I'm going to create a new blank layer and turn this off. And I'm going to fill this. I'm going to take this layer, select it, and on a blank layer, I'm going to select, modify, contract. Let's try 4, see what happens. Probably more than that. Yeah, let's do a little bit more than that. You're going to have to eyeball this. I can't give you much guidance on it. But what I'm going to do is kind of make a layered sort of thing where we have more layers over the deeper areas of the water, and I'm doing that by contracting and contracting the selection, and then I'm going to feather the selection by just a couple, I guess. And what I'm going to do is, I think I'm just going to fill it with a blue color, but not this blue color. Let's find a good stream color. We're not going to have to put any brown or anything in it because we have the brown. It's going to show through from the bottom, but we can pick like a not so saturated color. So I would tend to go maybe more in here and fill that. And then we'll, I'm just going to call it W1 for short, W apostrophe. I'd like it to be W1, please. Okay, and I'm going to make a new layer, and I'm going to select the water base again, and I'm going to not refine edge, thank you. I'm going to modify it by contracting it. I did 5 last time, so I'm just going to do, I think I'm going to do just 5 layers, 5 steps. Let's try it that way. Modify, feather, we'll leave that at 2, and I'm going to pick like just a little bit brighter, just a little bit more color layer in there. I'm going to paint that in, and we'll call that W2. Not W1, W2. My keyboard is kind of far away from me because I'm messing around with this stuff. And then here's where we're going to, I think, get a little bit different. I think what I want to do on this layer is I'm going to deselect, and I'm going to do filter, render, clouds. Yeah, maybe. Let's see what this does. Let's see what this does. Okay, so I'm going to select that. I'm going to filter it. I'm going to, I'm sorry, not filter it. I'm going to select it. I'm going to modify, contract by, just by 2 this time. Select, modify, feather. I'm going to feather this one by 3. This is all see the pants stuff here. Control-Shift-I to select the other side of it and delete that. Okay, now we got a little bit more of a texture-y thing going on here. Let me zoom out just a little bit. And now I'm going to do a final layer on top. So not 5 layers, just 3 or 4. So that's W3. I named it W2. I don't suppose it much matters, but W3. And now this one, let's pick some lighter colors here. Let's go all the way up into like that. And maybe into the greens just a little bit. You got to play with this and see, see what you want to do. Let's try that. Filter, or not filter. Yeah, no filter. Render clouds. Okay. Can we render? No. May not be quite enough variance in these. Let's make them just a little bit darker. Again, Photoshop or GIMP may not have a filter for this. I do not know if it'll do this or not, but I'm positive that you can find something that will do it for you. Okay, so there's that. We'll call that W4. And then actually there will be another filter on top of another layer on top of this. We'll make one more layer, and on this layer, let me turn all of these on. Now they're not transparency, so we can't see through them yet. I'm going to actually just let me try this. Let me just try duplicating W4 and then filter, render, not render, distort. Ripples? Is this the one? No, that's not it. That's not what we want. Let me find this here. Stylize, here we go. I think this is it. Emboss, extrude, find edges, growing edges. No, sketch. Maybe it's sketch, and maybe it's plastic or something like that. Here we go. This is where I want to be, is this thing here. So let's take a look through here. There are a couple of these filters. It's like plastic wrap or something like that. Distort. Water, paper, plaster. It is in here, right? Artistic. Here we go. Ocean ripple. That's what I wanted. Okay. And it's very hard to see, unfortunately. Let's zoom in. See if we can zoom in over here on this thing. I'm not getting anything. Does it need to be darker? Yeah, you know, I'm not sure. I'm not getting much out of that. Maybe we'll forego that one. Okay, so now let's start messing with this. If we take this and we just turn down its opacity to maybe 20. How dark do we need it to be? Maybe 60. Turn down this one to, let's zoom in a little bit so we can see this up close. I may not have made these bottom ones dark enough. It's quite possible, and that's okay. We can fix it. Turn this one down a little bit more. And we'll maybe play with the modes on these too, the blend modes just a little bit too. I'm not quite getting what I wanted here. No, not quite, but we may be able to salvage it yet. So let's see, what does that look like up close? Yeah, we're not quite getting much out of that. Well, one thing we need to do is draw in some shading. So let's make this light and dark. And what I'm going to do is just grab I'm just going to take it like that. Going to get a brush. Big fuzzy brush. Is that big enough? No, that's not big enough. Maybe like that. And I'm going to turn down the opacity quite a bit and the flow quite a bit, I think. And let's zoom in. And if you remember, let's zoom back out. If you remember, our light is coming from this way, right? So this bank is going to be dark. So we need to keep that in mind as we're doing this. But what I want to do is kind of come in here and paint some depth into the edges of the riverbank. And you don't have to do a lot, and we can certainly turn down the opacity if we put it up too high. but just come through here and actually let me put it on. I don't think I want to do multiply. What does color burn do? No, color burn will be too crazy later on. How about just overlay? Let's try that. And you can bring it up a little bit if you want to suggest a little bit more of a raise going on here. And just sketch this in. Now, in addition to doing just the edges of the river, you're also doing it to the bottom of the river. And as we work on this, we should be adding some definition at least, although my river is pretty well botched. I think we'll have to work on that a little bit more. We're not going to get through this today. I'm not going to get through this today at all. Not with 45 minutes. Map making is a process. If it were a short and easy thing, then everybody would do it, and guys like Sapiento would be a dime a dozen, but they're not. And especially for those of us without huge artistic skills, like me, it takes an awful lot of mucking about before you get it right. So bear with me. I apologize for not just whipping through it. But then again, you know, guys like Bob Ross might be able to paint an entire painting in a little bit and make it look easy and end up with a lot of happy little trees. My happy little trees are works of much sweat, unfortunately. My happy trees are generally quite unhappy because I'm usually messing around with them for a really long time before they get happy. And it might even take some pharmaceuticals. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, then go look him up. Bob Ross is a guy who did a painting show in the late 70s, I guess early 80s, called The Joy of Painting. He took over from a German guy who was doing it in the 70s. And he's just a big Afro ex-Air Force dude who just enjoys the hell out of what he's doing, or at least he seemed to. And if you haven't seen the epic rap battle on YouTube between him and Pablo Picasso, it's worth checking out. If you're an art person, I'm not an artist, but I do enjoy art, and I've taken a lot of art history and stuff. So a lot of the references in it are really great. Bob talks about doing some Guernica on him and whatnot. Okay, so generally when you're doing this, the light turns out to be kind of extreme, which is why we're doing this on two different layers. We can tune them separately. I do like the texture showing through like some sticks and things on the ground. That's kind of a nice little side benefit. And maybe we can do some things to emphasize some of those features that we really like. I mean, like this little boulder over here, that's pretty cool. Unfortunately, the highlighting here is doing some funky things to some of it. All right, let's try zooming out and taking a look at that. Now, if you notice, that's a lot more 3D. I think that looks a lot better, actually. So let's try different layer styles here on this. Soft light, hard light, vivid light, linear, pen. Soft light takes it down a little bit too much. Let's go all the way up to screen. Yeah, I think overlay is probably going to be our best bet, but let's just kick it down a notch. And let's take the dark one through and see. I don't know how well these are coming across on your screen. Okay, those are all of our lightning things. There's overlay, soft, hard light. Looks pretty good. Let's try hard light and let's kick it down just a notch. Okay, good deal. Right, now what I didn't get though is what I really wanted is some reflections on top of like the clouds. So let me see if I can pull that off somehow. What if we rendered clouds? Well, let's try different clouds. Oh, okay, I don't want to do that. Let's render clouds with black and white. Okay. Now, select this, Control-Shift-I, delete it. Little blotchy, right? But let's try just screen. There we go. I don't know if you can see that, but what we're getting here is now like some sky reflection. It's probably too bright, right? But let's try different modes here. So we got screen. Ooh, wow. Okay, if you have a crazy bright actinic sky from your near the core of the galaxy world, you might want that one. Probably not. Linear dodge, lighter color. Okay, overlay is nice. We can tone it down a little bit. Soft light is pretty good. Hard light is not. Vivid is not. No. Let's take it back to soft and back it down just a little bit. There. I think that's getting close to where I'd like it to be. Now what I would like to have happen though is I would like this to feather just a little bit around the edges. So how are we going to do that? Well, if you look, we got a nice like pixely hard edge because of the way we work this out. I'm going to make one more layer right here in between. I'm going to select that. I'm going to pick a color from this upper layer. Pardon me, guys. I got a little bit of an allergy thing going on here. I'm going to modify the selection. I'm going to grow it by 2, and then I'm going to feather it by 2. And let's see what happens with this. Feather it by 2 and fill it. Okay, we got a little bit more. We got a little bit better thing going on there now. So if we turn this on, let's turn it on overlay maybe. And slide it down just a little bit. It still doesn't quite take care of everything though, does it? Well, it's not too bad though. It's better than it was. So I think we'll work with that. One thing we can do now though, let's close the water thing, is on the ground we can create something for our riverbed. And this is probably a good idea to do. So right now we don't have anything. We just have this regular old thing here going on. So let's take a look at my textures directory. Let me see if I can find some textures for this thing that'll maybe work. Oh right, this is my missing directory that I can't actually see on my desktop somewhere for some reason. It's there. I mean, it exists, but I can't find it. So let's see if it pops up. Yeah, it does. I don't get it. I have a directory on my desktop that I just can't see for some reason. But in any case, here we go. A few textures that I have kind of picked out for this. Let's find something that looks like it might be riverbeddy and work with that. Something dark would be good, but not too dark. Probably not lava. Okay, well, I think the best thing I saw was this large gravel. Let's try that one. This is supposed to be seamlessly tiling, so I believe it is. Let's define a pattern for it. And let's go ahead and just, I'm going to paint this layer. And then I'm going to do an overlay of that pattern. Right? And then we're going to scale it down quite a lot, actually. Like that. Call it riverbed. And then let's see. So we want to select the water base layer. Not that. We want to do this. Control-Shift-I. And no, actually not Control-Shift-I. We just want to make a mask. There we go. Okay. Now let's put a layer on top of that, and we're going to darken and lighten it up a little bit more. Why does this... Oh, okay, I've got it turned off. That's why. Let's turn this all off and see how much our dark and light is doing for us there. Not much, is it? Yeah, not too much in the center. We probably want it to be a little darker in the center, so let's do that. Let's darken it up in the center. I'll zoom out just a little bit. Get our brush back, normal mode, get black back again, and I'm just going to paint in the center a little bit here to darken it up down below. Because even though the light isn't really getting obscured, it's getting obscured by the water, right? So we want that bright on the far bank, but we don't necessarily want it on the bottom of the river. So let's go ahead and darken this up a nice bit. And by the way, I saw some great, well, actually got further along than I did on his map that he was doing in this style. I'm very impressed. I think Isla Cruz, maybe, is the name of the person that was doing it. Very nice work. Totally pro. You probably got me beat. So keep at it. I think you can definitely do a lot with this style. And this style applies to a lot of stuff. I mean, I did similar techniques on my HighBR map. You know, honestly, probably the only maps I have on there that aren't really this style is my like my world map, which I use the Ascensions Atlas style tutorial to learn how to do. And I did modify and come up with some of my own ideas on it, but for the most part I used his ideas. And Star Trek map, same thing. Shapes, colors, variations in, you know, how you're selecting and altering and highlighting things. So pretty much everything, and you can do just a ton with this. Okay, now what we're going to do here is, and I guess we are not going to have time to do much of anything else. So I'm going to bring this down in size, and I'm going to turn it up in opacity and flow. Not fully, but mostly. And I'm just going to go along here. So white is our show through layer. So we want black, and I'm just going to go through and trim up the edge of this thing just a little bit so it's not so harsh. And you can, if you're dealing with a bigger map, you can go around features and stuff like that, kind of cut them out, like cut out this rock here so that it looks like it sort of blends in a little bit. If you look at my maps for Black Star, the encounter maps, like the river map, and I think maybe even the little abandoned village map, you'll see that I did that with like larger textures where I've gone and integrated them by actually drawing around textures. So like, you know, I'll go around the river rocks like this and sort of leave detail. It's not just a blurry line cut right through the middle of a rock. It's leaving a little detail. This is pretty small, so it's not really like that big a deal, but I am doing it a little bit here just because I like some of these shapes and I want them to exist. Yep, definitely going beyond the time allotted. So let me hurry this up and we'll call it a day, and I will do another one of these much more quickly than last time. Apologize for the delay here. I had a busy week last week and didn't get to it earlier this week, which was kind of a slow week for me. Next week will be busy too, but I'm going to try to do another one of these before I get too in-depth into next week. We've got the holiday coming up, and because of that we have a 4-day week, and I have a ton of freelance work apparently coming during that time, which is not a bad thing for me, but it's a bad thing for my video production schedule, which in addition to this includes gaming and a bunch of other things. So, but I will definitely get at least one more done next week, but I will try to do 2 if I can at all squeeze them in. Okay. As soon as I get to where the wall is, we're going to punt, and we're going to call this it. We'll turn everything on. We'll see how she looks. I cannot believe that we actually spent this much time on here. Also, now that I look at it, it almost looks like we're dealing with a hump that goes this way rather than a droop that goes this way. I don't know if you can see my cursor. It almost looks like a hump. You'll get that kind of effect. Like a lot of times I notice when I'm doing roads or something, it'll look like it's the wrong way. Just step back, take a look at it. It's kind of like those little visual brain twister things that if you look at it for so long, you suddenly won't be able to see the face. You'll see 2 people. It's the same sort of thing, and it's just your brain. Look away, register some other stuff for a little bit, and come back to it, and make sure that you're looking at it the right way, and then you'll be able to probably deal with it a little bit better. People are going to have a natural visual reaction to the thing when they look at it, and that's the one you care about, not the one that you care about, or not the one that, because I've been looking at it for so long, it doesn't look right to me anymore. It's kind of like spelling, you know. Right, and what was this? This layer was nothing. Superseded. Okay, let's turn these guys back on. We're not going to see much of this, right? You're not going to see much of that detail, but it's still there. We can still see, yeah, actually, you can see a little bit of it. We'll mess with the transparency and stuff before we're done, but overall, I think that's a lot better than it was anyway. We've got a little bit of life to the scene because we can now see like the clouds and all that. If you want to get super fancy, you can put, you know, you can mess around with this and put some objects under there and bring them up through these layers and stuff. But in general, that is the basics of how I usually address water, and that's about it for now. So I will see you guys later. Thanks very much for joining me, and have a good day, night, morning, whatever it is where you are.